Hi, everyone. I'm Kanisha from boldlivingtoday.com and the Creative Educator Collective. And I'm here today with the fabulous Laura Knights, who I'll introduce you to in a moment. But as part of the S.H.I.F.T program, the S.H.I.F.T framework that Carrie and I have created, we are having these what we call S.H.I.F.T and Tell interviews with fabulous educators who have made a transition, a shift within their career to expand their creativity, their individuality, and to have a greater reach and impact on the people that they serve. And so it's really our goal through the S.H.I.F.T and Tell interviews to showcase the talent, the journey, the stories, and really give our viewers a glimpse into what it means to shift and how it's done and what you can learn from people who are very similar to you or who might be doing something that you want to do and that you had never really considered based on your educational skills and talents. So today, again, I'm super excited to welcome Laura, and I'm very proud and happy to say that Laura used to be one of my former students when I was teaching high school in Illinois, and I'm just so proud of her and her journey, which you will hear about it. And Laura is the founder and creator of two exciting and super successful enterprises, the first one being Laura E. Knights Coaching, and the other one is Knights Consulting Group, where she does executive coaching, she leads workshops, webinars, she goes as a guest speaker, whether it's keynote or small group. And she's just really a mover and shaker and authentic and really, I would say, and she didn't tell me to say this, but like a heart-centered way for people to get really clear on what they need and what they want and then map a vision to execute and get that. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to interview you today and talk with you. And I just, like I've said, been so proud of you to see your journey on your own terms and for you to have such a, I say, as an observer, openness to constantly evolving and nurturing your skills and talents, but also responding to what people need and prioritizing yourself and your family and being a really great business woman while being a mother and being a wife and all the other things you are. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let us know, the viewers here, and welcome back to the viewers who've been here before. I forgot to say that. And if you're new, hey, we are so glad you're here. So Laura, what is your current job, your title, your role in your career? Like, who is Laura as the professional?
Yeah. So you hinted at it a bit, but I basically have two streams in which I operate in. So one is my personal brand, Laura E. Knights Coaching, where I work primarily with women solo business owners. So there are people like us who have packaged their own expertise for profit, and they need help, coaching, support, accountability to really grow those small businesses they've created. And then my other stream is a leadership development consultancy called Knights Consulting Group. So I work with organizations, actually quite a bit of educational institutions, some corporations, and some large nonprofit. And the whole focus there is helping them to create happier, healthier, more productive employees. So we do a lot of soft skills training. We do executive coaching for managers. We facilitate team building retreats and things of the sort. And then we do also what I call people process program development. So things like wellness programs for your employees. How do you get that started? If, engagement, or you need an internal professional development program for your employees that will help them continue to build their skills, how do you do that? So we help organizations create those type of internal programs.
That's fabulous. So it seems like you've been able to build, this really multifaceted enterprise, honestly. I would say you would say business, I would say enterprise, because you can serve a large cross section of people. So when you first got into education, what was your initial vision for your career?
Yeah, so I saw myself being not an educator, an administrator, of course, an educator, but an administrator. A lot of my educator work has been in the adult education sector and in workforce development. So I did a lot in nonprofit and working with local government programs in Chicago around helping people get job skills, helping people get their GEDs, helping people really create the next step financial literacy for their families, low resource populations initially. And then I started working for a state university actually, who ran those programs on behalf of the city. So my job initially was program development. I kind of created the programs. I did some training, and then I was in that position about 8 years. Over that time, I transitioned from the direct service programming to being in administration and being responsible for staff development and supporting the people who did the work with our direct kind of populations that we served. So I saw myself being an administrator, which I was, when I transitioned out of that role, creating programs, managing the teams, and more of the strategic oversight that it took for the programs and the initiative to be successful.
Wow. So I'm just writing down some of the kind of like hats or roles that you were able to experience when you were in your formal role as an administrator. And when I say formal role, meaning you were connected with a particular nonprofit, university, or whatever. So program development, team development, strategize. You didn't say strategizing, but I was like, that's a strategizing role, like key strategist. And then also I would say, I was thinking wellness guru, but I was trying to think of a more standard term for that, but I think like a quality of work.
Quality of work, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I have these things down here. And so my next question was like, with all of that, which I think is huge, which is impactful, and it's very multi-passionate, like what would you think your top accomplishments are at that time, or were at that time when you were in that formal role? Like what would be your top 5 accomplishments?
Yeah, I would say, well, one of them was a, official kind of award. I got an award of merit from the university, and it was a state university. So, that any state university systems, it's like 6 schools or something right across the state. So they did an annual award that they awarded to 20 people across all of the schools. And you had to, your boss had to nominate you. And it was this whole big thing. And you got a tax-free cash award too.
Tax-free.
I got selected for that award for developing innovative programs. And that really, as I was at the award ceremony, it was a really fancy award ceremony. And I was standing up there with the other recipients and hearing about the work they did. When you jump into any work as an educator, it's rarely for accolades, right? It's really for that, because that's not a lot of times what you get as an educator. But to be recognized and to get a shiny, trophy and a check and, have the news there, that was really like a full circle moment for me. Like, wow, okay, I'm doing this for the love and the passion, but people have recognized the impact that this has made in people's lives. So that was a highlight for me. Another one that was less kind of awardy and more like the gift that keeps on giving. When I first transitioned to the last university I worked for, I was given a program that had been running. It was a transitional jobs program for Head Start parents in the city of Chicago, which were, of course, mostly single Latino and African-American single mothers. And this job was to help them to get skills. They were supposed to be going to some type of school while they were in the program too, either GED or community college or a tech program. And it was a wage that they got while they were learning. So when I came into the program, they told me that they wanted me to redo it. They wanted me to redo it. And I've been blessed that every job I've ever had, I've been an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, but I've been the person where they say, here's a whole bunch of stuff, take it and make something pretty for us. And that's my jam. That is my jam. So long story short, got in there, had a great team, got to retransform this program. And we had weekly training that went beyond. At the time, they wanted us to do computer training and, all these kind of job-related skills. But a lot of things that were holding these young women back, they were probably majority under 25 at the time, was the life skills component was missing. Like, okay, they got some computer skills, but if I don't know about family planning and healthy relationships, I'm in a DV situation. Like, it's like Maslow. Am I really thinking about Microsoft Word? No, I'm trying to save my life. So we got to implement, we had workshops that were around like safe sex. And I brought in, educators from the hospital that were other women of colors who were nurses who broke it down for them. And what was amazing to me is that these women who had multiple children of their own were just at 25 learning how their reproductive system worked. Like, they did not know these things. And a lot of times people will look at different populations and say, well, they should know better. But based on what? Based on what should they know better? If the training wasn't there, if the education wasn't there, I bet their mamas didn't know how their reproductive systems work.
Right.
So
That whole cycle, right?
yeah, so it was so powerful to be able to transform this program and give this really holistic view. And to this day, that was 10 years ago. I'm still in contact with a lot of those women. They have gone on to school. 2 of them are in a PhD program now. And you just see, not that we could take all the credit for that, but knowing that those seeds that we planted there, that their futures matter, that you want to go to college, of course you can. Who cares if no one else has ever been? They're doing it and like raising beautiful, healthy children. And that is probably one of my most, successful points in my career, really being able to pour into those individuals in that program.
What a legacy, Laura. That's amazing, because it's not just that one person you impacted. It's going to be anybody who comes in contact with them. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, really filled up in hearing that. I mean, life skills. I love, entrepreneur. A lot of educators don't know that they're doing that as
Yep.
you're doing. I mean, that's a huge point. And, we don't get a lot of accolades as educators, not right there in the moment. We might get the students or the families coming back to us, or like you said, in that program, people going on to further education and being healthy and well. So, yeah, those are major. I mean, I would say that's beyond an accomplishment, because those are sustaining things. And
Mm-hmm.
so it makes me understand more about how you operate, how you come up with who you want to serve and what you're doing with your 2 businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you started to initiate this shift, because, you were super successful working with these organizations, and you decided to shift to go more on your own. And in remembering, you did some kind of like in tandem shifting and then a full shift. Can you tell us more about that, the initiation, the process? How'd you do that?
Sure. So I have to say that I have been an entrepreneur since I was 15. I had my first business at 15. I was the neighborhood tutor. I had retainers and invoices and $10 an hour. I thought I was doing it.
You were doing it on top of your own academics, and you were a great student.
So I always have had a side hustle, so to speak. Like it's part of my family's culture. My parents have always been, from a child, my father has always told me, you need to have multiple streams of income. So that was kind of built into me. So I always, whatever work I have done in my life, I have always been a side hustle consultant. When I was a youth development practitioner, I used to do CEU training for teachers in high schools about positive youth development on the side. Like I always had something. But when things started to be like more than a side hustle for me or a full-fledged business, what started to happen is that I had a baby. And I realized that although I loved my job, it was very engaged. It took a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of flexibility to move around in the vision that I had for the type of mother that I wanted to be at that time. So I started with formalizing some of my side hustles a little bit with the goal of being able to fully transition to being self-employed at some point. So with the women's business coaching, I've been doing both of my streams that I referenced for the last 6 years. With the women's business coaching, how that kind of organically morphed. A lot of the programs I developed in the university setting would be considered workforce development or economic empowerment programs. So part of my job was traveling around to different places and doing training. So I might be at the local Department of Human Services doing a training that was specifically to the participants that they were serving, but without fail, every single time a worker, so a DHS worker, will come up to me afterwards, doing what I call the church whisper with your finger up and your head down. Like, I know you were talking to them, but something you said resonated with me, and I want to switch. Can you help me? And I started doing some career coaching to start.
Wow.
My background is in business, human resources management, to be exact. And I'm also a social worker, and I became a therapist and all kind of stuff. So I had all of these mix of skills that I had a framework for how to do that work. So I started just doing that, a couple of career coaching sessions. And then very organically, the women, they were all women that I were working with, they were the same woman as me. that they thought that they maybe wanted a different job. But as we started to get into the coaching work, they saw, well, could I do this for myself? How do you be a consultant? How do you be a freelancer? How do you charge? How do you market? And these are the type of conversations, I mean, organically, like over 2 years, that just started happening over and over and over. And so that's how my coaching practice shifted from career coaching to helping these solo business owners really monetize their own skills, what I've been able to do for myself. So that happened over a few years, to the point where my revenue started to grow, where I could eventually leave my full-time job. And so I would say to educators who, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or not, when you're considering what your shift is, I feel like purpose, you can't run from purpose. I feel like there are always signs around you, like people attract to you very naturally for your natural giftings that often are like the blinking light for you of what way you could go in, and not just go to shift, but go and enjoy, go and be passionate, go and contribute, those kind of things. So in hindsight, I look back, and all of the things I'm doing now are things that when I was an employee, they were my jam as an employee. They took me out of program development and had me start doing staff training and professional development and working on our employee engagement programs, because that was my jam, even in the role that I was in. And so I took those things and just started to monetize them for myself. But they were things I was doing as an educator already.
I mean, Laura, you just fully blew the lid off of, what the initial seeds Carrie and I had when we were discussing this, years ago, and then kind of putting into a shift framework, in the last 2 years and launching this. What I loved about what you said is you can't run from purpose. I mean, I wrote that down, and I feel like a lot of times when educators want to make a shift, if it's a shift from what they're currently doing, they think it's leaving their purpose.
Yes.
When that's not exactly true, right?
Exactly.
And you don't have to go 100% into a different role or whatever, but these shifts keep you creative, like you said, keep you sustained, lessens the burnout, because we're talking about combating burnout.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, gives you time and space to do more things that are actually your jam.
Yes.
And that's what I love. I mean, especially about what you said, what I love about my work, and really having more time to, because my passion is creativity, that is there for everybody. And, even starting off as a educator, as primarily teaching Spanish and working with linguistically diverse, I still get to work with those populations. I still get to support them.
Yeah.
But it's a larger cross-section that I might not have with just being in one building, building or organization. And, that was really goodness. And so if you all need to rewind and go back and hear that part, I say do that now. Write it all down, because I'm even getting in all my good feels. So, okay. So you really had these opportunities to be expansive in the moment while you were developing like these side incomes and or side hustle streams of income. And I like when you said formalizing the hustle. So how did you kind of keep your identity intact? I mean, were you worried about identity risk, or, how did you mentally or in actuality manage that?
Well, that's a great question. And I was thinking about that. I've always had a very broad sense of what it means to be an educator. So I didn't really have the identity risk for education, but I did have it for my social work identity.
Okay.
So, I have a real interesting background. I started in business, went to nonprofit administration, fell in love with the populations I was working with, and went to get my master's in social work, and went on to get licensed and worked as a therapist for a little bit of time. And in social work, it's so clear our identity, like it's drilled into you that you are there for social justice, and you are there for, empowerment of under-resourced populations. So being an entrepreneur, you sometimes have that challenge of, okay, this has a purpose to make a profit. Am I abandoning my, social worker kind of things? And what I really had to do is reflect on what I was doing. And I look at the population I work with. Let's just say, for instance, in my coaching work with women entrepreneurs, my clients are about 95% African-American women. And when you look at the statistics of African-American women business owners, we know that on average, and this is well documented, they're making about $26,000 in revenue. So that's not profit. on
Wow.
average. And I look at some of the women that I have been able to work with. I was on a coaching call with one of my clients this morning who I've got to work with for a year. When I met her, this woman has a PhD. She is a freaking genius in her industry. But when I met her, she was just getting her PhD and was literally on the verge of homelessness, just trying to manage everything she had to do with her family. Now, not without skills, but just without a plan or a strategy. She was looking for a job. She was overqualified for some things. It was just all of this. This woman today told me that she just negotiated a six-figure contract, one contract. So I'm not taking all the credit for that. But when I think about the pieces of social work, which are about self-determination, which are about social justice, and I view the economic empowerment of Black women as a social justice issue, which are about just empowerment in general and being able to help people meet the life outcomes they want to meet. Like, I'm doing social work. I am doing social work. So I think part of it is expanding our own myopic views that we have of our work, expanding, the boxes that we, not only the profession will put us in, but that we will put ourselves in. Like, many people think a social worker can only be a case manager, can only be a Department of Human Services worker or DCFS worker or whatever the case. And I see when I go in organizations and do leadership development work, my social work is my secret sauce. That's my secret sauce, because I understand the business, but I understand the human mind, and I understand the emotional intelligence issues that need to be happening here. So, not to say I definitely dealt with that, but I had to really look at how am I viewing myself and my contribution, and how can I expand that in a way that says, yeah, you're not only doing social work, you're doing all these other things too, and you're still true to the game. You're staying true to the game, but in a way that adds value for you. And I've been able to manage that. I don't have a problem with it now, but I did struggle with that, I think, a little earlier on.
True to the game and your secret sauce. Okay, I got like all my papers all like marked up. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. So, who supported you in developing and expanding your secret sauce and staying true to your game and doing all this? Because you're not somebody who's sitting on the sidelines. You have a busy life. So what was your support structure, or who was there for you in all of this?
Yeah, the village is the real MVP. I gotta say, my husband is crazy supportive. He has an entrepreneurial spirit too. So we were juggling. At some points of the career, he was a stay-at-home dad for a little bit, so I can get this part going, and then I was this. So we have truly tag team. My mom and my sisters. My mom came and lived with us for 10 months in another state because my travel schedule for my consulting work was so crazy that I'm like, I need somebody to be here with my kids when my husband is at work. And
I would say it wasn't so crazy. It was so robust.
It was so robust.
Because you had work.
It was so robust. But if I didn't have my mom, if I didn't have my sisters who are like, when you come to Chicago for business, just bring the kids and we'll get them while you're doing whatever with your clients, I really wouldn't be able to do what I do at all. So just my whole village, friends. I have so many supportive people that truly I couldn't be living my dreams if they really weren't there to support me.
Yeah. And the only reason I added the word robust, because I want other women or people, but primarily women who are parents or who are caregiving in some capacity to know you can still make this space and not have to be apologetic about it.
Yes.
Like that's really big, when I'm talking about living boldly, believing you can, owning your gifts, and and listening to all that. So that's the only reason I shifted the word. But yeah, I do know the power of a living grandmother. Trust me, because I had that for 5.5 years when we lived in Colorado, and it makes a huge difference that you can be fully doing your mom time, and then when you're away from doing that actively, you are just out there just getting things done well, feeling proud of yourself, impacting lives, and just doing the thing. Yeah. Okay, so it seems like you have a lot of freedoms with your shift, but what is like the biggest freedom? It can be more than one, but what's the biggest freedom that this shift in creating your businesses and really having true ownership of being your own boss? Like, what kind of freedoms came from that?
This is going to sound so minor, but I used to have a dream all the time in the period where I was really building my business. So it was super busy, but I was still working a full-time job. So I was like a zombie half the time. I used to have this recurring kind of daydream that it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I was at the park with my 2-year-old with like not a care in the world. And that was the dream because before I transitioned, I never was able to pick my kids up from school because I just couldn't get there on time. So my mom or my husband or my sister would pick them up. And anything in the daytime, I had flexibility, but I also had so much responsibility in my role that, sometimes you can plan to do it and something came up. And so you had to do this and all of that. So I would say just the flexibility to be the mother that I really wanted to be, the present mother. If I want to volunteer in the middle of the day at the lunch time or whatever, I can do that. And that has been very rewarding for me. The other piece is that we relocated a year ago. And to be able to make that transition and not, stress about needing to find employment right away or those kind of things was really a game changer for my family and just creating a different environment that we wanted for our children. Entrepreneurship was critical for that being able to happen so seamlessly. And my husband accepted a position. So me being able to make sure the kids was settled and not be so flustered about it.
Yeah.
I think my family flexibility has been the biggest gift for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the dream. Big or small, that is the dream. That was my dream too, Laura. And I think that's a lot of dreams that a lot of parents have, and primarily women, in wanting to do a lot of things. Like I myself, have a very successful husband in his own career, and I've supported him in that as he supported me, but he has a brutal travel schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to have the flexibility and not worry about work conflicting when my kids need something.
Yes.
I'm in charge and I can, schedule things around them and still be working and still have that fulfillment of having my own thing outside of just being a mom and being a wife. So I 1,000%, probably even 1,000,000%, resonate with everything you said in that regard, because we do want to be fulfilled, but we do want to be able to not be frazzled, like you said, flustered and stretched so thin in trying to manage, create, build all these things. So yeah, that's a huge freedom. And I know it sounds minor in the scope of things of I want to end world hunger, but you still will have the stamina to keep going.
And if I could just keep it real for a second, because
go ahead.
Entrepreneurship is not all, flowers and daisies and things. But, one of the reasons why I wanted to relocate, because my pace, I relocated from Chicago to the Atlanta area. My pace in Chicago was so brutal. I knew it was not sustainable, for my own health. I'm talking about weight gain. I'm talking about all kind of crazy stuff. I planned my business out such that I knew the relocation would take some time, right? Just unpacking your house takes time.
Right.
Getting the kid, going to the doctor to get the physical, to get the kids registered, all of this kind of stuff. So I scheduled a good 6 months of my business where I front loaded jobs so that I could not have to be stressed about getting new clients and all of this. When I got here, I was not prepared for the quietness, to be quite honest. And this always reminds me of you and your work around self-care and not being so flustered and all of this. I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown because I was so used to the pace that even though I prayed for some quietness, when I got here and the birds are chirping and all of this in Georgia, I'm looking like, what did I do? It's almost like I didn't know what to do without the craziness, to be quite honest.
Right.
And I had to really have an adjustment period. Was like, no, you prayed for this. You need to learn how to operate not in crazy. Get it together. It was a major transition for me. And so, sometimes people can think, oh, I'll just become an entrepreneur and then my, problems will be solved. No, not quite. You still have to deal with your own stuff. And some of your stuff comes from the shift you need to make.
Right.
But mindset is not there sometimes when your body gets there.
Laura, so honest. I'm glad you said that, just because people always say, Kanisha, you're just so productive. You're getting everything done. You're happy with your business. And all those things are true. I'm not saying they're not, but half the time, maybe sometimes when I'm running a a webinar or something like that, I'm only like professional from the top because I just could not get to the bottom, or I
Exactly.
laundry in baskets and stuff like that, and things are happening and I'm happy and fulfilled. But the honest piece is entrepreneurship is just not going to be like the magic bullet to solve it all.
Exactly.
It's a constant negotiation. It's a constant ramp up, ramp down, mindset shift. But we can't forget about the self-care. That has got to be priority, or you
end of the day,
won't be able to do this.
Yeah, and that's entrepreneur or not. Entrepreneur
Correct.
or not. Yeah.
You won't be able to do this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is quiet down in Georgia.
It's so quiet compared to Chicago.
I just know. Or like when I moved from the city of Chicago to Boulder and I'm like hearing, the crickets or whatnot.
Right.
Whatever I heard, I was like, it's quiet. Yeah. I get it. So, okay. We're winding down. What support or inspiration outside of what you've already provided would you like to offer to like someone who's ready to make a shift, who might join me and Carrie in October for this event, or who's going to reach out to, go to another workshop or get a coach or something like that? Like, what would you say to him or her?
I would say invest the time for the exploration. Invest the time for the visioning, because we often are such taskmasters. We have a checklist. We don't, and things like visioning or time to explore seem frivolous, but you don't even realize how much you need that until you give yourself space. I found in my own life, sometimes my creativity won't even well up. It won't even come to the surface until I'm like stopped and in a space. My genius won't pop up until I'm stopped and give myself space for it. So I would say, take the time for exploration. If there's like what Kanisha is doing is amazing. The fact that there are even those opportunities, like you need to get your tail there because you'll be in a supported space, and it's about a safe space, a facilitated space even, that when you get there, okay, what am I thinking about? What am I supposed to be doing? You're going to have some professionals there to help you. The other thing I would say is, and I tell my clients this all the time, mine your mastery. And when I say mine, I'm like, dig it out, excavate it as a diamond. Because when I think about everything I'm doing now, whether I'm doing leadership development consulting in a corporation, or if I'm doing some one-on-one coaching, which is really a lot of strategic planning with my entrepreneur clients, those were things I did as an educator, as an administrator at a university. They were things I did as a therapist in my former job. Even when I worked in corporate America, they were things that I did. So the skill sets are transferable, and many of the things that might be the core functions of your shift, you may have already mastered them. So this is not about, I got to find something else new to do. No, you might need to find a new home for those things, but they're already yours. So part of that, taking the time to do the exploration and the visioning, is thinking about, what are you really good at? What is your mastery? And not just what you're good at, but what do you enjoy? What are you passionate about? Because we can be good at a lot of things. That doesn't mean we want to spend our time doing it, right? I would say think about your preferences. Sometimes that seems a little decadent to think about. If I had a choice, I would do this. That seems decadent sometimes, but think about your preferences. Like, what is your vision for your life, right? And how can your work fit within that? Not how can you fit your vision around your work? How can your work fit within the big vision for your life? That was a big thing with me. And when I became a mom, like, okay, what kind of mom do I want to be? Like, I'm raising some little human beings. How can my work fit into this vision that I have? And yours may not be parenting. It could be whatever. It could be travel. It could be whatever you want to do. Take some time for that. And I say, I always lead to hiring a professional. Go to the event, go see Kanisha, all of that. I'm a coach. I have my own coach, because you just don't know what you don't know. You just, and oftentimes when you're knee deep in something, you can't really get the full picture of it. So having someone who can look at it without all the emotion, without the fear, without the whatever that's connected to it, can really help you move light years ahead of what you would do on your own.
Love it all. Oh my gosh. Again, rewind if you missed that. And top gems, like merge your work and your vision, have your vision and then create the work. leave yourself with space to invest the time to explore and create this vision and mind your mastery. Look at those transferable skills. You don't have to be 100% beginner if you're shifting, right?
Exactly.
You know, it's not like you've done nothing. You can take some of that stuff and then just really turn it into your passion. Wow. Okay. Laura, that was a word. You have given us something to think about. I love it. I love it all. I'm not surprised. This is why I'm interviewing her, y'all, because I knew it was going to be the business. So Laura, tell us, how can we stay connected with you, learn more about you, hear about what you're doing, see your programs?
Yeah. So I'll just give you my 2 websites, because then that'll link you to all the social media.
Okay,
So
great.
for my work with women entrepreneurs, you can go to lauraeknightscoaching.com. And my last name is Knights. So lauraeknightscoaching.com. And for my corporate leadership development work, you can go to knightsconsultinggroup.com.
That is awesome. And I will have these links also posted in the video notes. So if you didn't get that down, you can go in the video notes. Laura, thank you so much. I mean, literally, I have a page full of notes here. Just some really great gems, great reminders for myself. Even though I made my big shift, I am constantly shifting. And I love your key point. You also have to have a coach. I also have a business coach.
Yeah.
If you work with coaches and they don't have a coach, I don't know about that.
Same thing for therapists.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if they're not staying on their A game and getting their support and all of that, then maybe move on.
Yep.
Thank you again for making yourself available, for sharing. I mean, really, this beautiful, expansive, and honest, glimpse into your shift and how you're doing it, and you continue to do it. I'm so proud of you. I'm rooting for you. I got my pom-poms in California for everything you're doing. And yeah, just keep going. Super proud of you. And thank you so much for being part of our Shift and Tell video series.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Check out Kenesha Baynard Coaching. You can find me at boldlivingtoday.com. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Kenesha Baynard, and also on Facebook at Kenesha Baynard Coaching. And of course, check out Creative Educator Collective, creativeeducatorcollective.com. And we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Creative Educator Collective. We hope to see you at our Shift Framework event. It's going to be fun. No stuffy PD, no grading papers in the back, no boring sit and get. This is going to be the bomb, y'all. So we hope to see you there. Bye, Laura.
Bye-bye.